It's working. A good start. Right. I'll just quickly see if Heather's still having issues. Right, she has still got problems. Don't worry, it's just dogs go crazy. I'll just get rid of that noise. Come on, pups. There's not a peep out of them for hours, and as soon as I go online, they seem to go absolutely crazy for some reason. I'll just help Heather out here. See if that works. Right, okay, let's get going. So no class next week, obviously because of the half-term holiday. And then we're back on the 2nd of November, okay? We're still having issues. Right. Just quickly do the register as well. Right, so got a few things to look at this week. I thought I was going to have to do a very brief tour of classroom because I was expecting some new people tonight, but one person enrolled by mistake somehow and another one is in Spain, so we don't have to worry about an induction this evening, so we'll go through all of that when we come back after half term. So apologies that I was rather late in uploading the content for you. It's just been one of those days today and I was just rather late in getting everything together. So I do apologise for that, and in future, you know, as we said before, I will try and get everything uploaded much sooner to make life a bit easier for you guys, okay? So let us move on and we'll have a look at what we've got in store for this evening. Right, so we're up to week 5 now of the course. So as per usual, we will do a critique of work that's been submitted. I did ask you to take a macro image, and I'm pleased to say that we've got some really nice macro work to look at. So we'll come back to that, and as we go through, we'll leave the macro to the end. As we go through the critique, we can just say what we would do to each of the images in order to enhance them and improve them. We're going to just have a look at compositing techniques, and that's not the whole thing. That's just ways of transferring, say, an element from one image into another. So rather than doing the drag and drop, there's other ways that can speed up this process. As far as projects are concerned, we've got a duotone effect, a double exposure, and a look at curves in order to boost landscape colours, and I have recorded a video on that which I will upload to YouTube as soon as I can, and then if we don't get round to doing that, at least you'll have that to look at, okay? So that's what we've got in store for tonight. So we'll just go past the macro images for now, and then we'll come back to them when it's time to do the macro work, because then it'll be fresh in your mind what it is that we're suggesting you do to each one. So the removing a chain link fence seemed to cause a few issues for some people. You didn't have a chain link fence, Lindsay, but a barbed wire fence, and made an excellent job of removing that. Anything you want to say about your technique, if you use the masking technique or something else?
No, I used the technique that you used in class. I watched the video and used it. I actually didn't. It wasn't that easy, to be honest. I had to do it a number of times to get that fence away, and then ultimately had to do it with cloning out as well. But yeah, it was a useful technique to use, a useful technique to know, because there's other ways you could use it. So it's quite nice to actually, know that it was there.
Yeah, it is quite good. I mean, with that type of fence, to be honest, it might have been quicker to have used something like the healing brush, because just really to save you work. And, at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. Because this is obviously not such an intrusive fence, and the spot healing brush would attempt to match the pixels of the Highland cow's coat, and just sort of blend in this part and then over to the background and the ultimately that bit on the fence. So that would possibly have been quicker. Excuse me, but very well.
It's quite because I also took the fence post out using the same technique, but that was a complete mess. That was, I mean, I wasn't even sure where they got the pixels from to sort of remove it. It was bizarre. When you've got a large area coming out, it's a bit of an odd one. So, I just end up leaving it in.
So yeah, it looks good because it's a beautiful image. We've got really good eye contact, and we've got some nice framing as well. And so it's enhanced it so much just by removing that barbed wire, which really forms a barrier between the viewer and the cows. So absolutely brilliant work. Well done.
Thanks.
Doug, you said this one was a bit haphazard. Did you have issues with it?
No, just my usual clumsiness. And I used the spot healing, and I find you've got to be very careful not to you can see at the top of the head, he's got a bit of floating hair.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful about your source. And there's a bit of blue at the bottom, which shouldn't be there. So I don't know where that came from. I can't remember any blue in the photo at all. So it's things like that catch me out, really.
It does take a little bit of time, this technique, but it's something that I think it's worth practicing, because quite often you do get really good opportunities to say take a picture of an interesting animal, and sadly it happens to be in a cage of some sort, and so removing that cage can be so very useful that it is worth looking at. And so really I think maybe what's happened here, Doug, is that the tidying up stage is when you've encountered issues.
Yeah. It's, I was dashing to catch up. Suppose that I can use that as an excuse.
But yeah, I think even when I was looking at the project myself, I must have done it 5 or 6 times before I got a result that I thought was passable. And it's just really getting your brush the right size, when you're starting off, to make sure it's not too big, and getting your lines nice and straight following the chain link. So yeah, it's something to fall back on if the occasion should arise. But it'll never be, well, not yet, it'll never be like 100% perfect. You're always going to have to do a little bit of tidying and fixing. So good practice with cloning though, using the healing brush and some of the other tools, because as I was saying in class this morning, the patch tool is often an overlooked tool, and that can be great for fixing areas of background, like this piece of grass here. You just literally draw around it and then drag to a new location, and it blends it in quite well if you're using content aware.
Yeah, I'll try it again, see if I can improve it.
Okay, yeah, well, so we'll have a look and see, because you weren't alone there. I think everybody found it a little bit on the tricky side. Unfortunately, Heather's not here, but she went for similar subject matter to Lindsay. So, James, what do you think about this image? Would you care to critique, please?
Yes, it seems to have worked very well. It's taken the barbed wire out and left all the colours for the cow and the grass not behind. Obviously, she's cropped the posts out, so yeah, it's worked well.
Yeah, just a shame Heather's not here, just to add what her comments are on technique and whether she thinks it works well. But it is pretty seamless what she's done here, so another one that's worked. Thank you, James. Now, James, this is your one, so this looks brilliant. I mean, obviously we've got a few little flaws in the background, but it seems to have worked particularly well. What did you think?
I thought it worked quite well. I quite enjoyed doing it. I had another one that I tried earlier with a girl's head and that, but there was shadows on it as well, so I found it really difficult trying to take the fence out and then the shadows. So I downloaded this from the internet and just used the dog.
Yeah. So I think it's worked really well because, you know, as I was saying, it's a lot easier if you can get the chain link so it's not across an eye, so you don't have to do too much eye building, if you like.
Yeah.
That makes things a lot easier. And also it works well with texture. So, you know, that's the other thing to be aware of. It was just really
well on its fur, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's actually, you know, worked really well here. You've done a great job. There's just things I could suggest, just this little sort of dark mark on the dog's tongue, maybe just cloning a little bit from the other side, and I just patch that up a bit.
Right, yes.
And maybe just use the patch tool a little bit on the background to save you work, because, you know, it's just quicker at that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But very good choice of image and really nicely executed. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so this was the task we were working with, where we were combining images again, more practice selecting hair, and then the extension was just to add a few speech bubbles and some text. So Doug, any problems with this one?
Well, this part of it worked quite easily. I didn't even attempt the bubbles. A, I didn't have time, and B, I thought, I can't remember how to do it, to be honest. I'm sure I've got a script somewhere in my file, but yeah, I was surprised how well the hair went, actually.
It is good, because you can see like all these little stray bits. Yeah. So very good. Yeah, in the initial selection across the top. I would just say to watch out for these like little fuzzy bits at the side. That's the only thing, because the initial selection, even in select and mask, it does seem to struggle picking up these bits just along past his ear. But, you know, apart from that, very good. So to do the speech bubbles, you can just use the shape tool, choose any shape from the vector graphics. So you could choose like a rounded rectangle. So just drag that out, choose any color you like from the options bar, and then just grab the text tool and type inside. That's all you have to do. There's a lot of activity. Let's see what's happening with people struggling to join us tonight. Let's get back in. Well done though. Great work. So Heather went a step further. I think she's just missed out those little fuzzy bits there. but she's got her speech bubbles in there and some text as well. So that's worked quite well. Not quite as neat as you on the top of the head though. We've got a little bit of fuzziness in there. So, it depends really how much time you've got, because, a lot of these projects, you need to be in the right frame of mind to do them. So it's no good sort of thinking, oh, well, I've got 5 minutes to do this. You've got to have the time, and you've got to be sort of feeling quite calm and relaxed and not agitated, because otherwise it all goes wrong straight away. But good work there, Heather. James, anything to say about this one? Are you there, James, or are you muted?
Sorry, yes, I was muted.
Okay.
No, I obviously misread what I had to do, so I just used one of my own pictures, obviously of Nina, but it seemed to work all right. But I used all blurred background for the background of it.
Ah, yeah. It's actually worked out really well, because did you change the colour of her top as well?
No.
No? Because that sort of looks purpley, doesn't it? Whereas it looks black on there. So I thought you'd done that on purpose.
Yes, I did. I did.
An inspired choice, a colour coordinated top.
I thought I'd do that match her hair, yes.
Yeah, that's really
No,
good.
it's just the way it turned out.
So super image, good choice of background, and again, very difficult hair to select here, but you've made a really good job of that. So well done, James.
Thank you.
Photoshop's on fire just now, James. Margie, are you there? No Margie yet? Okay. So Margie's done well. Haven't zoomed in to see, but that looks like there's just a little bit of transparency in that bit behind the ear. Good hair at the top, and she hasn't gone for a speech bubble, but she's gone for text, and she's put what looks like a flag or a wave design on it. So that's Margie putting her own stamp on that. Graham, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Jim.
Oh, yes, okay. Anything to tell us about this one, Graham?
No, I mean, it sort of went all right. I used the magic wand because obviously I don't have the subject option, so I tend to use the magic wand on the background and then invert it to get the subject. And then I created a mask. I put the background behind, and then I sort of just adjusted the mask and took bits of black out or added bits of white in just around the hair until I got the hair in, and I was sort of happy with it really. But I was sort of quite. There's a little bit of a white line on the underside of these jeans I just didn't get round to, but generally I was quite happy with it. I for whatever reason I decided to pick someone who had quite challenging hair, but I managed to get most of his locks in. So.
That's an excellent job. You really have made a lovely job of that. And it just brings the whole image to life, doesn't it? Having that background that's in keeping with the foreground, the fact he's reading, and you've put in that really nice bookcase behind. And this is something that a lot of the editing software is introducing now, these changeable backgrounds. So we've had sky replacement, so this is going to be the next thing. So a lot of the third-party plugins you can buy are going to give you this option, as well as having like a separate control to alter the tonal values in the foreground subject so that they kind of match in with the new background that you put in. So I think you've preempted that trend, Graham, but you've done a fantastic job with that, really good. And you put your own stamp on it, having to use a magic wand instead of using kind of AI to do the selection for you. So I think that's a really good composite. Excellent work.
Thank you.
So range masking, we'll see what your thoughts were on that. So Doug, I know you had problems with this, but then you seemed to get over those and you were able to open the dolphin.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but at first the computer didn't seem to like the dolphin at all. But then I went away, and a few hours later, it was the dolphin was acceptable. So, I don't know why. Yeah, there you are.
Yeah. So, how did you find working with the depth range mask? Did you find it was useful or not?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it worked quite well, and it has an effect, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I was, I couldn't do any of my own photos and this stuff, but yeah.
So
that one seemed to be relatively straightforward.
Yeah, it is. The only problem is there's, a limited range of cameras that can actually capture an image. It's got to be cameras with more than one lens to capture that depth information so that you can use the depth range mask. But if you do a lot of editing of iPhone images or any other smartphone that has more than one lens, then it is, I guess, quite useful.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got 2 lenses on my phone, so I might give it a try.
Yeah, just give it a go. And it just means that you don't have to bother with complex selections, etc. You can just really isolate parts of an image, brighten things up, because it could be something like you needed a bit of fill flash if you've taken a nice portrait of somebody, so you could use it for that, in portrait mode. So that's the other thing, as I mentioned, it's got to be done in portrait mode where you can alter that depth of field. Heather made a nice job of that one as well. And James is totally on fire with Photoshop. What did you think of it, James?
I thought it was quite good. Obviously, I enjoy things that work for us. So.
And it has worked beautifully. So what sort of phone did you use? Was it a camera phone or something else?
It was an iPhone.
iPhone, yeah. And it's got how many lenses? Is it 3 or?
2.
2, yeah.
2 lenses.
And that worked really well, but it's brightened the image up a treat and just looks so much better. It's added depth as well. So great work there. So if you haven't tried this, because maybe you've not had time, it's well worth the effort. Is find something of interest and snap it with your phone in portrait mode, and then just try out the depth mask. So then we had a look at the colour range mask. So I'll ask Doug, would you care to critique Heather's image, please?
That looks really neat. There's not a huge difference between the two. It's lightened up the face a bit. Yes, I mean, I wouldn't say there's a huge difference there, but a bit shinier in the right-hand image, and a bit better lit. Nothing to criticise, though.
No.
No.
So I think, what she's really been after here is changing the colour of the eyes, just enhancing them a little bit. So she's gone from blue-grey to more of a greeny colour.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's worked well. I mean, it's probably not something you would generally want to do, change somebody's eye colour, but maybe you would want to enhance it and just make the eyes a little bit deeper, perhaps. But it's really just showing you what you can do with that colour range mask.
Jen, this was the one with the Asian girl, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
I found I just couldn't make this technique work at all.
Okay.
It just kept doing strange things. But there you go.
So it's a good idea, you know, before you start any new project, just to reset all tools, just so there's nothing untoward coming forward from like a previous project. Because, you know, if say you've got a different blend mode set, or, you know, that can kind of make things go wrong. But if you're in class tomorrow night, Doug, we can have a look at it and see if, you know, or is it on your Big Mac rather than your laptop?
I can put it on the laptop.
Oh, okay. Well, if you bring your laptop to class tomorrow night, we'll have a look at it and see if we can figure out what's going wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. James, how did you find this technique?
Yeah, it seemed to work okay.
And did you just enhance eye colour? Because that's what it looks like. Yeah. That's good. That's just sort of not changing anything dramatically, but we can see definite improvement. Okay. Margie, are you with us yet?
I am.
Ah. So how did you find this technique?
I thought it was dead easy, and I actually enjoyed it. I had our eyes all different colours before I settled on blue. Well, I think it's really good, though. I mean, it just changes the whole person, I think.
Mm-hmm. It does, and
yeah.
So it's good, you know, for anything where you're wanting to affect certain colours, and you know that's really what it's all about. So it really does have some very good uses. So that's very nicely done, Margie.
Thank you.
Very neat. And then we had the Luminance range mask. So this one, as you may remember, is ideal for just toning down the sky where perhaps you've got hot spots and you just want to kind of bring it into line with the rest of the image. So any problems with that, Doug?
No, just looking on your screen, I think I've made it too dark. But apart from that, it was relatively straightforward.
Yeah, that's it. So it's a useful one, especially for work with skies. That. James, how did you find this technique?
Yes, it seemed to work all right. Like Doug, I got it a bit too dark to start with. But no, it wasn't any major problems with it anyway.
Certainly brought detail into the sky, because on the left it just looks like, you know, typical white sky day, and then on the right we've got interest forming and looks much better. Was this Belsey?
Yeah, that was the one where it Belsey. That was the sky then.
Yeah, it was pretty awful, but the range masking saved the day. Well done. So Margie, how did you find this technique? Are you muted, Margie?
Yes, I was. It was good doing it, but I've got the same problem. My after shot is darker than the before one. And when on my screen it looked really bright and nice and fresh. And it looks terrible on this one.
Right, it could have something to do with the fact I'm sharing screen. Because it looks nice on my one, and often, you know, when you're screen sharing, you can get sort of, it's not the same quality that you would see if it's just like an image on your own screen, you know, with your own colour palette and everything. But on this one, there's nothing wrong with that. And you know, once you've done the work, there's nothing to stop you putting on another filter if you wanted to say brighten your foreground.
Oh, I was tempted to do that, but I thought, would Jean be pleased if I did that?
I'm pleased to. So yeah, it's, you know.
You just don't tell her.
Yeah. Oh, she knows. Come on.
It always, if you sort of think, oh, that's just a little bit on the dark side, you can always just use another adjustment to bring things back into line the way you want them to be. So don't hesitate to do that.
Right.
But that guide certainly looks much improved.
Thank you very much.
And this one, Margie, were you pleased with the effects here, or?
Yeah, I did exactly the same as what I did to the previous picture, and I thought it brought out the prairie dogs just lovely.
It does. They look so cute, especially here. Was this at Northumberland Zoo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's well worth it, Jane, if you've never been.
I have been once, and yeah, it was more or less just sort of when we came out of lockdown before they got the snow leopards, but I'm planning on another visit.
Oh, I can't wait to go back. I really can't. Should look at it in the class.
Well, yeah, good. I'll make a note, Margie, and suggest it and see if the class would like educational visit.
Yeah.
Is this the zoo on the way to Belsay, Margie?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
it is. Yeah.
Yes.
It's not a huge zoo, but you've got great access to take photographs of the animals because they're all sort of like out in fields and it's great.
Oh, great! I've seen it a few times when I've gone up that way. There's our
The yellow van is nice.
And I've keep meaning to go, but I'll have to make a conscious effort and go down and have a look at it.
It's definitely worth it. Even if you just go to see those snow leopards, they're fabulous.
Okay, thank you.
It might be an idea to check, because a lot of people have said when they've gone, especially to see the snow leopards, they've been asleep. So it might be worth asking if there's a time when they're likely to be more active. Just so
yeah, they actually tell you when they're going to be up and about and when feeding times.
Yeah. So that's obviously, a good thing to do before you go, because you're more likely to get the better pictures, aren't you?
Yeah. My pictures quite fuzzy of the snow leopards.
Oh.
Because I was like shooting through glass at first. And it was terrible. But when we're getting fed outside, I'm getting some better ones.
Oh, okay.
When I checked the settings, Jamie's shutter speed was just too slow.
Oh no. Oh, that's a shame.
Well, I'm going to go back and redo it.
Yeah. And they've got some deer there, haven't they?
Oh yes, lots of them, baby ones.
Oh.
And the kangaroos have had babies.
It's the rutting season, so it could be quite a good time to go if you want to get pictures of deer. Right, sorry, I digress. I focused on the task in hand. Right, so just really want to go back now to the macro. Right, so we're just going to have a look at the macro images and just to discuss anything that can be done in order to enhance those images. And then I'd like you to have a go at processing your macro right now and then upload it during class time. So then we can see that you're working in real time, and then you can share screen with me if you run into any issues or difficulties. So just like being in the class, really. So basically some macro images just have to be touched up with adjustments made to the colour and the tone. Others need more work. So we'll have a look as we go through it, like a typical macro processing workflow. So first up, we have this one from Doug. Have you done anything to this, Doug?
I haven't done anything to this one, but I have got a processed version. And what I did was I cropped it, gets rid of some blue at the bottom. I brightened the colours, increased the detail, and sharpened it generally. And it seemed to be much better after that, because all this end of the rope comes out quite sharply.
Okay, so this bit here, you mean?
Yes, that's
Yes.
right.
Okay.
And the wood stands out, the rotten wood. A bit
Okay.
more.
So that's lovely, isn't it? So there's a lot to recommend this image. We've got beautiful contrasting colour, we've got peeling paint, and so it's really interesting, isn't it? So yeah, the first stage in any macro workflow is to look at the raw file and assess what needs to be done to bring out the best in the image. And then we would go to the basics panel and check exposure, looking at the histogram. Check if the white balance needs changing. If handheld, you may have noise, especially if it's been on the dark side and you've brightened it up. So then you would have to be getting rid of the noise early on in the processing so that the noise isn't being sharpened or processed along with everything else. So at this stage, before you do your other edits, if you are using a third-party plugin like DxO or Topaz Denoise, then that's really the stage when you would use that. Anybody using any of those third-party plugins?
I downloaded the DxO one, but I found it really difficult to sort of. It keeps cropping up every now and again when I don't want it, and I get rid of it. I haven't found it easy to use. When I have used it and I wanted to use it, the effect is really good. But in terms of actually accessing it and things, I struggled.
Have you put it in your applications folder?
Probably not. No.
That might be why it's causing issues. So when you download it, there should have been an instruction telling you to put the DxO file into applications, and then it's easier to access just when you need it.
Right, and then so you would process a DxO first, and then
Yes.
move the file over back into Light, or all
Yeah.
that sort of thing just went over my head. I'll be honest. So then you put it back into Lightroom, or you put it straight into Photoshop.
So back into Lightroom. So once it's because really you can't see what you're working with if it has got noise in it, because you might be sort of thinking borderline, I might bin this one, or maybe there's some mileage in it. So it goes in its raw state into DxO or Topaz. The noise is considerably reduced, and then you have the option to open it back up into Lightroom after you've inspected what DxO has done to it. So then you open it back up into Lightroom, and then you carry on with your regular processing, your tonal adjustments. Okay.
Yes, I've got DxO as well, Jane, and I find it's quite good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm impressed with it. I mean, they've come so far. The noise reduction and third-party plugins, some of them will work as a standalone as well, but they really have come a long way and do a fantastic job, and just means that images come out really clean and ready for your processing, and then ultimately the sharpening at the very end. So once we've done that work with DxO or noise reduction, wherever you like to do that, if you need it to be done, you would generally crop the image, adjust the tones, and then maybe dodge and burn if you want to do any dodging and burning at that stage. And then finish off, if you like that, with a vignette, just to draw the eye in or darken a little bit of the front of the image. So these are, suggestions, maybe not applicable to every single image, but suggestions that you can work with quite well. But this doesn't look particularly noisy, Doug.
No, I don't think it was. No.
Yeah, but a really nice image. So that would be a suggested workflow, and I'll make sure that's visible actually on Classroom. So Lindsay, what about this one?
Yeah, I would crop it. I would definitely crop it a lot closer to the ladybird. It needs brightened.
Yes.
It needs to be sort of more. Yeah, it needs brightened is a big one, isn't it? I don't know if it's particular. I mean, some of it's. I think the ladybird, the one I put this why I put this one in. Ladybird is in focus in this one, although the grass isn't.
Yes.
But that's part and parcel of trying to get something small in focus. And it's running up a piece of grass. So yeah, would it need to go into DxO? Do you think first?
So it's quite hard to tell just because I'm not looking at it at 100%. I'm just looking at a snapshot. So first of all, your camera settings, what it was actually shot at.
Yeah, it was a really fast speed because it actually was following up the grass.
Okay, so it was a fast speed. It was shot outdoors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could well be that you don't need to use any noise reduction. But what you've got to bear in mind, it is on the dark side, and as soon as you lighten it, even if you shot that at a base ISO of 64, you could start to introduce noise. Yeah. So with that in mind, I would probably put that into DxO first, just to tidy it up, and then once it came out of there, then you're ready to do your processing. So were you thinking of your crop somewhere like there? Or even close,
the crop quite close to the what is my left hand side, and the crop probably at the top of the grass where you had your arrow earlier.
Yeah.
Just to make it a portrait.
So
a narrow portrait.
There's great potential in this image. It's a really good macro shot. You didn't use flash at all?
No.
So that's really the next stage to think about with the macro work, to start thinking about using a flash as well. So that would be a speed light if you have one. And you don't have to go for a Nikon, expensive speed light. You can use one of the cheaper ones, but that's where you start to get better shots like this, that are sharper and that are lit, straight out of the camera. So I'll probably be talking a little bit about that in class tomorrow night. So that's something else to, be thinking about. And I'm thinking I might do a workshop on using speed lights, out in the landscape.
Okay. Do that after Christmas then, okay? Because I'm going to ask for one for my Christmas. I want the proper one, so I'm going to ask for that for my Christmas. So do it after Christmas.
Okay. So a very nice Christmas present to get that.
Yeah.
Very,
Jane,
yes.
Yeah, I forgot to upload my macro image. I've sent it to you now. I don't know if you can get it or not.
Okay.
If not, I'll just do the same one.
Well, I'll have a look. I'll just run through these and then we'll have a look at your one. Okay. So that's Lindsay's one. Heather isn't here at the moment. So I'll ask Margie, because you haven't done a critique, what would you do to this macro image, Margie? Are you thinking or are you muted?
No, I was sorry. I would probably raise exposure a little bit, and I'll definitely bring out shadows. I'll crop the bottom half out where it's all dark. And maybe it's a little bit of luminance on the flowers.
Yes, yeah, that would just give them a little bit of a lift, wouldn't it? Maybe local adjustments around the sharper flowers. So it's not really a case of making something that's unsharp sharp, but just where you've got that sharpness, that narrow band of sharp pixels, that with the adjustment brush would work really well. So really nice, delicate image with some beautiful colour.
There's one. Let's have a look. What's that?
Oh, that's a dead kid. We've been watching that TV.
The dead kid, right?
That's from Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. That's where I got the idea from.
Okay. Yeah.
See, bugs and snakes.
Yeah.
That's Maggie, do you just want to cut your mic? Okay, thank you for that. Next up we have James. Anything to say about this one, James? What would be your processing techniques here?
Well, I'll crop it down, possibly get the lady bit a bit brighter if I could do.
Yes. So how would you do that?
I'm not sure if that would, to be honest.
So you could do a local adjustment with your adjustment brush.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you could up saturation just a fraction. So in that one brush you could put in some saturation, some clarity and some sharpening.
Yes.
And really just to pull the eye to that central point. Possibly some clarity in that leaf because we've got this lovely heart shape going on behind the ladybird.
Yeah.
Just to, you know, lift the veins in the leaf there just to make that stand out more.
Right.
Okay, so that would be a suggestion, and the cropping, yeah, that would make a big difference as well. Okay. Jonathan's not here, but we've got a really nice image there. So that one needs perhaps just a few things doing to it. Graham, what would you suggest doing to this image?
I think I might crop a little bit off the bottom, and I think I'll try and bring out the colours of the dragonfly a little bit more, like using the adjustment brushes you mentioned before, and then either increasing the saturation or adjusting the colours just to make that stand out a little bit more.
Yeah. So not a great deal to do with it, this image. You know, I suspect Jonathan's already done a little bit of processing already. But yeah, we have got some really interesting detail, and that could be just enhanced a little bit more. So lovely image by Jonathan. Thank you, Graham. And this is your one. What would be your thoughts on processing this image?
I'm not sure actually. I don't know whether I should bring the red out anymore. There's quite a bit of red going on in there already.
Yeah.
I think probably sharpening it a bit, certainly, and maybe a bit of clarity on right from the centre corner out. But yeah, I'm not quite sure about what else really.
So has this had any work done to it already or not? No. So yeah, you could consider if you wanted to crop it just to make more of a feature of that central part. Maybe again the adjustment brush to bring out some of the textures. And maybe even pull back a little bit on the reds, because the red's kind of overpowering, isn't it? It's sort of wow.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So few things to think about. So shall we make a start and just have a look at doing a little bit of editing on these macro images, and then I'll be on hand just to help out as needs be. Margie, I know you want me to look at your macro, so we'll just reduce that one down. Right. Are you still there, Margie, or have you gone again? Right. Where did you upload it to, Margie? Because it doesn't appear to be there. Oh, have you just done it?
No, I did it when you were talking about the macro at the start of the presentation. It's not there. That's weird. I definitely sent it over.
Do you think you could have put it in another upload?
No, let's have a look where I sent it. No, I have. It's turned in. It's not yet turned in. It was due on the 31st of October, and I've just done it and turned it in.
Right, so you put it in week 5, that's what it is.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Sorry.
Because I'm thinking, that's it, because, and there's the notes, if anybody wants to see, I've put them in with the processed image. So when you've processed your macro, you upload it to Macro Shop Processed, and there's some notes there as well. So I'll just see. see what we can look at here.
I know it's fuzzy, but I wanted your opinion on it, Jane, because I really liked the way it looked, and it was shot with me macro lens.
Okay, so it's very sort of dreamy, very soft focus, isn't it? And is that what you really like about it? Sort of the soft pinks and everything. And then we've got this bit here, which is slightly sharper, which is, and then when you look at it, you can see there's sort of points of sharpness sort of coming through here and here and there. So this is where we're looking at it and assessing what it is that you want to do with the image, what you want to enhance, what you want to take out. So to your eye, do you want to sort of keep it with this soft focus, the soft focus pinks?
Yes, I do, yeah. So I just think it looks nice.
It's most unusual. And what about the sharp bit? You want to keep that bit there as well?
Yeah, just that one bit there, though, because I don't particularly like that large piece.
Which, right down here, that bit.
Yeah, that bit, yeah.
So, yeah, that's really a little bit at odds with the kind of softness that we've got from everything else. So I think with that, either a little bit of cloning over the top, you know, to soften it. So you could take from that and maybe just soften that out, because that, again, it's kind of pulling your eye away from the softness of the pinks. So yeah, that really just needs to with a soft brush, like a big soft brush, just to paint over that, say from there, rather than another pink, because if you take them from, say, another pink, I think that would look a little bit odd. But you've done and so it's really unusual, and this is the beauty of macro. You know, you can get some really striking images, because the more you look at it, the more you see sort of other bits that are well defined, like this grass here. You know, that's really quite unusual.
Right.
Okay, so that's your one that you're going to work on.
That's what I'm going to work on, yeah.
Okay, then you can just upload it again when you've done that.
Right, okay. Thank you, Jean.
Jane,
Yeah.
you were saying to use the adjustment brush to lighten up the inside of that leaf.
Yeah.
How would I do that?
Right. So, let's just see. So I'll just use this as an example. So if I go filter and camera raw filter, then if you press key, that'll bring up the adjustment brush, and so you can set up your selective edits, and then from here you can apply like more than one edit to the brush. So if you just wanted a tiny bit of exposure, you could put in maybe just 1/4 of a stop, if it needed that, and then as we come down you might want to put in just a little bit of clarity, or you could use texture, which isn't as heavy as clarity. You could boost the saturation a little bit at this point, and also sharpen. So you're creating your own custom brush to do all of those things in one brush.
Right. So this is in Photoshop, not Lightroom.
So exactly the same, you can do this in Lightroom, you can do it in Adobe Camera Raw. So it's the same sort of principle, the adjustment brush, and then just adding the what you want to actually do with that brush, and then just creating like a selective edit. So in one sweep you can, for example here, sharpen the eye, add clarity, add a bit of colour, and lighten it up a bit.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, I'll give that a try. Thanks.
Exactly the same though, whether it's Lightroom.
Jane, I've got quite a big highlight on the ladybird. I try and take that out.
You can do if the detail is actually being captured, because that's the thing. If it's like a specular highlight that is maybe like a bit of glare, like you sometimes get on leaves, etc. You know, when you try to see pull that back with an adjustment brush, if it's still there, it means that it's like a hole in the image where there's no details. So then you might have to just clone over that little bit.
Right, okay. Thanks.
You'll soon know though, because if you use your adjustment brush on, say, negative highlights and paint over it, if it still looks like white and bright, you know that it's like a hole.
Right, I'll try that just now. Thanks.
Okay. How's that working, Lindsay? Do you think it is a hole in the image? Are you muted, Lindsay, or are you busy?
Sorry, I was muted. I was muted and busy. Yeah. What I said, what I did say when I was muted was, I think it's a hole in the image, and I think it's quite a substantial hole, to be honest. There's a little bit that can come back, but I'll put it back into Photoshop and try and clean it.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think you get the best results from cloning in Photoshop as opposed to Lightroom.
Yeah.
And maybe even if consider the healing brush, just because of the way it blends pixels so well.
Oh, that's what I'll do, I think. Okay, thank you.
Change, just upload to where I uploaded before.
So yeah, when you've finished, if you just upload it to where you've uploaded before, it might be as well if you save it as a JPEG and then just say image worked, and then I can see it.
Right.
Okay, that's popped in there now. Oh, Doug's got his done as well. Oh, it's maybe Doug's has appeared before yours. Let's see what Doug's done with his one. Ah, that's really nice, Doug. That's made a massive difference, hasn't it? Just that selective crop, and then getting that nice piece of rope into the corner, and then you've got all that nice detail, etc. here. Really like that. It's lovely. Even that little bit of shadows coming out as well. And you brought out quite a bit in the paintwork. Did you try using your adjustment brush on this? Are you muted, Doug?
Doug seems to have dropped off, I think, Jane.
Has he? I was beginning to think he'd gone.
Yeah, it looks like he's dropped.
Ah, okay. He might pop back in a minute. Well, if anybody can see that, his processing is really good. See that?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's really enhanced it.
It has. It's lovely that. That's this one's got another one. Got two versions of it.
Right, mine's Gene.
Right.
I put in this macro JPEG and it looks like the same one, but I've actually cropped it, so we might be able to tell the difference as well.
See what we've got now. Macro JPEG.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, that's not the one. That took that out.
Right. I'll just go back and see if it's coming up. So let me just oh, there's Graham. So I'm just going to refresh this in case it needs refreshing. Right, now I've got 3 from you. Right. So we've got macro. And then we've got macro.
That's weird.
So I've got 2 that are called macro JPEG.
That's weird. Hang on, I'll resend it again.
If you just say, give it a different name so that you don't get confused with before and after, and then upload it again, and then that'll make it a bit clearer.
Right.
And see how Graham's done. Oh, it's much better, Graham. Much better.
Thank you. Yeah. I put some clarity on the central bit, and I adjusted the red down a bit, desaturated a little bit, just so the red wasn't quite as bright.
Yeah, that looks so much better. But we've still got some really nice detail here. I think I would have been inclined to have just cloned out this. So it just looks like a bit of a highlight there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then on the right as well, to in these tiny little bits, just really because they're pulling your eye, and you're not sort of looking at the flower in its entirety. You're kind of pulled to those 2 things. So that would be the only improvement. No, I think you've done a great job. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great work. Okay, what's happening here? Lindsay, you've got yours.
Right, I've done it again, Jean.
Okay, we'll have a look at that after Lindsay's. So that's really interesting, Lindsay. Have you changed your colour palette a little bit here?
I changed the what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for?
Grass?
No.
Ladybird?
It was the white balance. I changed the white balance.
Right.
To go with the background, actually, because it was quite. I changed the background. It was quite a browny colour. It's slightly grey now, isn't it?
I think that's lovely. It's really, it's come out really well. We've got the sharpness of the ladybird. We've got detail, really good detail. And it's just like a really nice, simple image, isn't it? Because that's what makes it so effective. And you've got this beautiful curve in the grasses. I would just I know it sounds like, nitpicking, but just so the grass doesn't touch the edge of the picture frame, I would have just taken out that little line. Because again, it just looks as if, it's meant to be like that, and that you haven't sort of cropped it or taken a little bit out. So you could just take that out a fraction, and then just to give yourself a tiny little bit more room, I would extend your canvas, and we've done that before with the crop tool. Yeah. You just extend it just by a little bit, and then you can fill it with content away or the background colour, and just so that you've got that tiny bit more space, so it balances what we've got on the left with the right. But that's excellent.
So I was trying to do the ladybird on the third and on the cross-eyed. It wasn't possible. But if I did that, I could probably do it, couldn't I?
You could get it spot on. But great focusing skills, getting that ladybird without the use of flash. You've got the sharpness and really good details. So that's excellent. Well done. Love it. Now, so Margie, got the new one. macro cropped. So this is the new one, Margie, macro cropped. Okay, so that one's much better. So yeah, it's really nice. We've got that lovely soft focus feeling, and we know what we're looking at. It's just like a really nice image that's been very tastefully processed. Are you there, Maggie?
I am. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jean.
Yeah. So are you happy with that now?
I am, yes, much more happier, because that other thing that was like in focus, it just looked not right at all.
Yeah.
So I'm glad. Yeah.
Have you rotated it at all?
I have, yes.
Yeah. And because that's just the second thing, because the more I look at this image, the more I'm seeing. So we've got what looks like a horizontal piece of grass with a little droplet on it.
That's right, yes, it is.
Yeah, and that looks a bit odd. I think if it was like round the other way, it would probably be better.
Right. Well, I can also rotate it round and then see if it still looks.
Yeah.
Because you've pointed it out that it does. It looks. Your eye just goes straight to that dot.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
And I didn't really focus on that to start with. I was just sort of taking in the soft focus of the pink flowers and the greens and everything. But then when I looked further up, I thought, wait a minute, I'm sure that was a vertical grass. I probably wouldn't have picked up on it if I hadn't seen the before and the after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd take it out, definitely.
Okay. So really well done.
Can we upload this image? Sorry, Maureen. Just Jane, how do you upload this image?
So once you've finished it, if you just go to macro shot processed in Classroom, so where it's got classwork, then we've got macro shot processed file upload.
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, if you're wanting to have a go at another one and get feedback on that, you're very welcome to do so, because I did have the upload for this not until the 31st, so that gives you plenty of scope if you want to upload any more. But we've got some great images coming through now, really good. So.
Jane, could I see Doug's one? Because I didn't get a chance to see it.
Yes, I'll just go back. Okay, so here's Doug. We've got that one. And he's got a Photoshop version and a more abstract version, which look pretty similar, but there's just a few subtle differences. But I love this piece of wood that he's captured, and this lovely rope. Doug, are you back again, or are you still? Is he still? Oh, he's back. Yeah, he's back.
Yeah.
So, Doug, just talk us through this. What's happened?
Well, the Photoshop version follows your instructions, really, the PS version, and so I did that. But the Abstract 5, that I was doing a series of abstracts, and the day after I took them, I pushed them through Luminar. So that's the Luminar version. And they're both cropped in an identical way, and I don't know whether I should have left a bit more at the top, and brightened up the colours. This one, the Luminar one, is a bit more orangey, and brings out the green a bit better, I think. But they both bring out that peeling tint quite nice.
They do. Because the only thing that I would have said, if you wanted to enhance that further, would have been like a local adjustment to just paint on like a little bit of clarity or texture with your brush, and that would have just made that really pop a little bit more. Because there's so much detail in there, if you wanted to, you could bring out quite a bit more detail.
Yeah, yes.
So, but I think
selective clarity, yeah. But both, basically they've ended up more or less in the same place. So they're two different systems.
Really good colour contrasts. The skill is obviously at the taken stage. It's a very well seen image. A lot of people would have just walked past that. But, to actually see that and to see the colour contrasts, to see the peeling paint, you've done really well. I think it's a super image. Love that.
Did I tell you where it is?
Go on then.
It is a place called Paddy's Hole.
Oh, I know it, yeah.
Yeah. A place of mud.
Yes.
And tatty boats.
But, hey, you got a good image out of it. Probably several more as well. So,
yes.
Yeah, really nice. Love that. Have we got any more? Yes?
Do I unsubmit
Yes.
the image that I've sent and then put another one in?
Well, you can just add another one in as well. So just call your new one, say processed, and then we know which one's which.
But it'll not let us do that. I try clicking on it and it just opens the picture up.
Well, when you're trying to upload it?
Yeah.
Because you should be able to upload more than one. It could be that it's got the same file name.
No, it's definitely got a different file name.
It's got a different file name because everybody else has uploaded more than one.
It's just got turned in.
So once turned in, that'll be the first one that you showed us that needed processing.
Right.
And then you should be able to just go and submit another one, add more files.
No, there's nothing there for that.
Mine was like that as well, James. I just unsubmitted, and it doesn't get rid of your previous, and then you can just add the other one.
Okay, that's interesting, Margie. Unsubmit.
Oh, yes,
yeah, and it didn't actually get rid of your previous.
No, it didn't.
Oh, well, at least it's cleared it enough to get the other one in. So then we can see what James has done. It should just appear once you've uploaded it, and then we can all have a look, James. Is it working, James, or not? Are you muted, James?
Yes, it's working. I've just uploaded it there.
All right, okay. Have you put it into the new macro one?
No, week 4.
Oh, okay.
6 we didn't do.
Right, okay, because I was looking in week 5, so it's week 4. Macro shutter process. You've done popped it in there, have you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that was your before, and then we've got your macro after. Ah, much better, James, much better. Let me just have a look, because I'm zooming right in there. The only thing, I like the way you've cropped in and everything. The ladybird's taken on a bit of a coppery tone. If we look at it there, in its original, it looks redder.
Yes.
And then here it sort of looks a little
Coppery,
bit,
yes. I see
yeah.
what you mean.
It could have been just the, when you added the saturation, it's maybe just gone a little bit towards the brown spectrum rather than red.
Right. I'll have another look at that then.
Having a look, because you could possibly go back in your history and just say modify the settings just to be able to get the red back. But your crop and your work on the leaf is lovely, so it's really made more of a focal point of that central ladybird, and that heart shape is very evident now. It really pops. That's the only thing, just really to get the red back.
Right, I shall have a look at that then. Thank you.
Lovely. Right, are there any more being handed in? So we've seen Lindsay's, Doug's, oh, that was the previous one. Back again. We've seen everybody's work. So we'll just have a little look at what we have to do in terms of homework, because obviously not in class or not online next week. There's a few things that I've just uploaded. So one thing is searching in Lightroom. So that it's just really a little bit of revision to make sure that everybody is up to speed using the Lightroom tools and techniques to search for things when you've uploaded your images into Lightroom. Then you're using the P key to pick, the U to unflag, the X to reject, and the X key also, the U key to unflag after you've rejected something. So using those techniques, colour coding, just to make sure you can add colours to your images if you like that method in order to highlight the ones, or alternatively using the star rating. Searching on metadata, so how you do that if you want to search on a particular camera that's been used to take photos, or a particular lens. So that is just really, it's nothing new, but I just thought I'd include it just to make sure that everybody is aware of all the searching capabilities which we know that Lightroom is so good at. So that's that. That's just something to work through. We've been through the process macro. A quick project, which is a fun project on double exposure. So that one is just adding a snow scene to a bison. So very simple, but there's a creative decision to be made in how much you decide to leave in and how much you paint out on the layer mask. So that's that. Curves to boost the landscape colours. So that one is a longer project, but it's got some very useful techniques when it comes to isolating parts of the landscape using either the object selection tool or the quick selection tool, and then using that selection in conjunction with a curves adjustment layer, and then plotting an S-shaped curve, or dropping the curve down to darken, or the curve up to lighten. So, and it's how you can use curves in conjunction with selections. So if you get in a bit of a knot with that, you can just let me know and I can upload a video. Okay, and then there's your version of that if you've got a landscape or any sort of image where you might want to just work on parts of the image selectively, then using the selection and curves can work really, really well. Okay, so that's what we've got for you to look at, and then you can see that we've got sort of Halloween for the upload date, so lots of time to get to grips with all of that. Okay, has anybody got any questions about the work that's to be done?
Seems fine.
Okay,
No,
perfect.
all fine.
That's lovely. So have a lovely half-term break if I'm not seeing you before the end of the week, and then we'll see you back here on the 2nd of November.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
guys.
everybody. Lovely seeing you.
See you later.
Bye
Bye
now.
now. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.